Now the demons are toned way down right now. I just got done doing spiritual warfare for quite a while, and so they're toned down. So they're not crying out of my mouth right now and complaining. This isn't going to work for everybody. This is just it would probably be a more advanced case of having problems with these demons. It's just something for you to try to see if it works for you. My name is Bradley Sanderson. I have the website alertchristians.com and a forum at alertchristians.net. Please take a look at my website, my forum. If you are scientifically, medically human, please contact me through my contact page at my website. Jesus Christ is Lord.
Misguided Messiah, pariah of twisted beauty, spirit of fire, climb higher and higher, ever desire to taste all that isn't worthy, enlightened, divided, to tire, which ain't your brilliant showers, your fire. Messiah of Phoenix wing and a burden in power, deliver the light unknown. Lucifer rising, Lucifer rising, misguided Messiah, pariah of twisted beauty, spirit of fire, climb higher and higher, ever desire to taste all that isn't worthy. Lucifer rising, Lucifer rising, Lucifer rising,
Hello my friends, welcome back. This is part 3 of my video response to David Carrico's guest appearance on NYSTV. I will leave links below to parts 1 and 2 if you would like to see them first. For those of you just now watching, let me bring you up to speed thus far. David connects a transliteration in the Bible to a fictional female pope from the 9th century. Then somehow claims that Luciferians believe this is a sign of the coming of the Antichrist. What evidence does he have, you may ask? Well, he has the planet Venus, a tarot card, a mythological Babylonian sea monster, and many snippets of text taken out of context from Albert Pike and Eliphas Levi. So clearly, this is a well-documented and well-researched pile of steaming bullshit. So hold on to your nose, because we are going in.
What the fuck is this piece of shit?
They were the ones that anointed the Knights Templar into the mysteries. And in the story of the Priory of Sion, the Priory of Sion, they claim to be the group that initiated the Templars into the mysteries. And everybody says, well, there's no mention of the Priory of Sion. Well, there is. It's right here. But they were called the Johannites. And the story's right here in Morals and Dogma, how these Johannites, who were the Priory of Sion, they initiated the Knights Templar into what Albert Pike calls the Kabbalistic Gnostic apostolate. This is what he says. He says the Johannites ascribed to St. John the foundation of their secret church, and the grand pontiffs of the sect assumed the title of Christos, anointed or consecrated, and claimed to have succeeded one another from St. John by an uninterrupted succession of pontifical powers.
Yes, David, you are reading what Albert Pike wrote about the Jonanites. I already addressed this in part 2.
And the epitome of this sovereign priesthood was Pope Joan ascending to the papacy. And their final go round, well, this is what's coming. And this is what is so profound for us that this could give us some clues on what to look for, and I'm sure that it is. And Pike goes on to say that the order of the Knights of the Temple was the apostolate of Kabbalistic Gnosticism, was vested in its chiefs. So this is the core of the onion.
That's the core of the onion? What Albert Pike wrote about the Jonanites? I'm not sure you understand what Morals and Dogma is about, Dave. Morals and Dogma talks about many stories, mythology, symbolism, and allegory, all related to the degrees of Freemasonry, most of which is heavily Christian-based symbolism and allegory.
Yeah, and another thing to help people put puzzles together when you're looking at Dagon or Oannes, like you're talking about. This is considered, through the ancient tablets they found, the Ugarites. This would be the father of actual Baal. This would be the father of Baal. So this is where we get our Baal worship.
This tablet has been carefully translated and it is accessible to anyone through the internet. There is no puzzle, and I'm not sure where you are getting this, John. The story of Oannes mentions nothing about Baal being his father. Neither does the Greek, neither does Pike or Eliphas Levi. With the apparent exception of Baal, whose parentage is uncertain, all gods of the Ugarit myths were born to El and Asherah. Although El had 2 wives, and in addition to Asherah, it was Asherah alone who nursed the newly born gods. Baal is identified both as a son of El and as a son of Dagon. Although a god named Dagon who was affiliated with grain was known in the upper and middle Euphrates regions, there is no mention of a deity named Dagon in the Ugarit texts. The myth actually states Baal is identified as a son of El and as a son of Dagon.
Where all this mythology comes from, and how it all ties in together.
Mythology comes from the culture and can be influenced by other cultures around them. Stories were a very important and vital form of entertainment.
As being the same deity, which I wouldn't necessarily call him deity, but the same entity that has been plaguing mankind, and mankind has been actually making sacrifices to since the beginning.
The same entity that's been plaguing mankind and been making sacrifices to? All gods of every culture is Satan to you. The only god that demands allegiance, sacrifice, and threatens its followers with retribution if not worshipped is your God. He demands sacrifice. He causes plagues, war, genocide, murder, rape, incest, and eternal punishment to those who do not bow down before him.
And my question to you, David, is when you talk about this cult and you see the symbolism, like the one slide you showed had the cross with the 2 things, which is what you mentioned Eliphas Levi, how he would sign his name. Also, Crowley would sign their name with that Baphomet symbol.
It is so funny how you both so desperately try and make anything a conspiracy. Of those 2 men you mentioned, only Crowley signed his name with a cross as Baphomet, his name as the head of the OTO. His signature looked very different. Eliphas Levi is not known for signing his name with a lower hanging cross. The actual sigil of Baphomet that is known today as the sigil of Baphomet was adapted and made for the Church of Satan. The cross you are referring to has a double cross and sometimes a second cross at an angle, and it is the patriarchal cross, and it has never been called a Baphomet sigil or even a Baphomet cross.
How far back does that symbol itself actually go?
The 8th century. John, the patriarchal cross goes back to at least the 8th century.
Because in the slide that you showed of her having the baby in the street, there was some in the background, there was like cross with the double arcs like that. I guess, it goes back to Templars and other things as well, but do you know how long ago that symbol came into existence, I guess, is...
Yes, John, we understand your question. You can shut up now.
What we would consider representation for
It's like watching an airplane never leave the ground. Don't get me wrong, the engine's pistons are firing, but nothing is happening. I mean, the lights are on, but nobody's home. I think you're getting what I'm saying. He's dumb. That's what I'm hinting at.
Baphomet, because as far as I know, Eliphas Levi was the one that actually coined the Baphomet and drew the Baphomet. But how long before Eliphas Levi coined and drew that was that actually a thing?
You are talking about two separate things. The patriarchal cross seen in the images previously and the Baphomet image which was drawn by Eliphas Levi.
In the 12th century, that symbol was associated with the worship of the Baphomet.
Which symbol? The patriarchal cross? No, it's never been associated with the Baphomet. Depending upon which Templar knight being tortured before being burnt at the stake, we should believe the Baphomet was either a skull, a head, Muhammad, a cat, or some other fantastic and horrific image. They were accused of all sorts of heresy, including spitting and urinating on the cross.
In the worship of the Templars, which this is where the Baphomet worship originated, with the mysterious head that the Templars worship.
No, David, not exactly. The association of the Baphomet with the Knights Templar is quite well known and legendary. The interest in the Baphomet has survived over 600 years and taken many forms. The opinions on the Baphomet vary greatly from scholar to scholar and mystic path to mystic path. One thing is certain is that writers of the 19th century were prone to believe that the Templars were devil-worshipping occultists, while historians of the 20th century were of the belief that the Templars were party to the machinations of a corrupt government and church. It remains to be seen what the common consensus of this century will be regarding the order. While 20th century historians may have believed in their innocence, the Baphomet mythos did survive. Historians don't know for sure where the name of Baphomet may have originated. Theories on the etymology of the Baphomet are many. To some, it is believed to be a corruption of the Muslim prophet Muhammad, or in English, Mohammed. The Templars fought alongside Muslim assassins during their time, and it is held that they may have adapted Islamic beliefs. This doesn't really hold water to anyone familiar with Islam, as the religion forbids all forms of idolatry. Another train of thought is that Baphomet is really a joining of two Greek words meaning absorption into wisdom. However, the imagery and the name came about. One thing is certain. The Templars created this image while under torture. How did this belief come to be? Since King Philip of France sought to own the vast Templar wealth, he, along with his puppet Pope Clement V, had the Templars captured and tortured. During these tortures, they made many confessions. Among these, the disclosure was that they had worshipped an idol said to be the Baphomet. Were these claims true? Perhaps we'll never know. Jacques du Molay, who had earlier confessed his and the Templars' guilt, slowly burned at the stake, insisting the order was innocent of all but one offense, that of allowing torture to cause them to lie and confess untruths.
And that symbol, I believe we can trace it farther back, but I would have to do the research. I can't tell you off the top of my head.
Which symbol, David? Are you still talking about the patriarchal cross? If so, then the answer to John's question is at least the 8th century.
And we had a slide with Fred Kleinknecht's signature and Aleister Crowley's side by side. They both would use the sigil of Baphomet, the Templar cross.
Right.
Because that's what these guys are all about.
Right.
And these guys know what that stuff is.
Yeah.
They know what it is, and most people look at it, well, what's that little weird thing? Well, these guys, they know of whence it comes.
Aleister Crowley's signature looked nothing like his Baphomet signature. If someone puts an extra character or symbol to their signature, so what? People do that all the time.
Let's pull this next slide up here, which is the Baphomet. And if you have children watching the ride tonight, you might want to not let them watch this, because this is graphic.
Give us a fucking break.
Well, they got statues of it now just about everywhere you go.
I mean,
you can't miss it. But
yeah, they put it up. They put one up in Oklahoma, and now they got the one in Harvard. We were watching, just driving up this evening, about all that, you know. And,
well, yeah, they make the dolls now too. I mean, you see the people with the dolls, the Baphomet dolls, and you know, there's a cartoon actually on, and I can't remember what the network is. I've never seen it myself, but I've seen people sharing the meme around of of this Baphomet type character in this show. It looks like, I mean, it's got the goat and everything about it's the Baphomet, so it's definitely infiltrated.
Infiltrated, yes, just like how the happy face infiltrated our Facebook feeds. Oh, that horrible pop culture iconography. If it ain't godly, it's of Satan.
Not of God. It's not Christians. Did you not ask if she believed in God? She's not a Christian!
She could be a Jew and believe in God.
It doesn't matter. She's tampering in dark-sided stuff. Yes, she did. The entire house is dark-sided.
She said her whole house is...
She is dark-sided too!
Why are you mad at us?
Why don't you ask? Why am I the...
I'm always the one that asks all these things. I'm the one that's the warrior.
Why can't you be the warrior? And then they had this wonderful star thing, okay?
And there's Buddha, and there's the Buddha flag.
And then there's the zoology.
All of society and what people understand, and a lot of people don't even understand what it means, but it definitely has a very distinct meaning. So
yeah, and it's portrayed as good. Yeah, Lucifer's the light bearer. It's good, and
Wow. Two wrongs do not make a right. The Baphomet is an alchemical representation. It is not portrayed as either good or evil by Eliphas Levi. It is a balance of opposites, male, female, light, dark, above, below, strength, and beauty coming together and separating. It has nothing to do with Lucifer or Freemasonry.
I know what this stuff is, and that's why I have a zero tolerance for this stuff.
Oh, you have zero tolerance for it. Oh, well, I didn't know that. Well, that changes everything. Should we just shut up and step aside, let you have the only voice? I know you like to play puppet master with your audience, telling them that this is what they should believe, and this is how it is, and this is what they should do. You do not accurately portray any of Levi's symbolism, and you believe every single unsupported conspiracy either levied against Catholics, Freemasons, or occultists is true, despite the evidence to the contrary, and it being easily accessible on the internet. You instead choose to spread lies and sow hate.
Because I know what it is. And when people begin to talk about, well, maybe God's androgynous and all of this.
Who is saying that your God is androgynous? Definitely not Eliphas Levi or Albert Pike. The Baphomet represents alchemical processes, none of which are to create some hermaphrodite. That is your projection onto it.
This is a lie from the pit of hell, and this will show you the androgynous God right here.
Yep.
This is the Baphomet, and this was drawn, as John, this was originally a wood carving, and I'm going to read from Transcendental Magic by Eliphas Levi. This is the guy that drew this. And
I got a question for you, too, before you go into that. What exactly does it say on his arms? I see Solve on one side, and then the other side pointing down, the fingers pointing down. What does that say? I cannot read that, but I was wondering. Somebody asked it in the chat, and I was like, wow, I never really noticed.
I saw that.
Nearly everyone who has studied this image at all knows what the term solvet et coagula means. It is one of several occult axioms, like as above, so below. But somehow you just don't know. Not sure, huh? Alchemy is change. The process of change is the ultimate atom of the ancient Greeks, the original building block of the cosmos. All of the symbols of alchemy emphasize the aspect of change, the transmutation of the baser metals into gold through a process of solvet coagula, separatio et conjunctio, disintegrate and unite, separate and join. Since the earliest times, alchemists have been interested in applying their hermetic wisdom towards the perfecting of the body and soul of man, the quest for gold being left to the puffers. For the alchemists, the first stage of the great work is the negredo, the stage of black disintegration, chaos, where the material metal, the soul of man, or what have you, is reduced to the prima materia, or formless original stuff, before it can proceed to the second stage, the albedo, whiteness, where the material may be unified once again. The alchemical process is circular, alternating between solvent and coagula on its path towards perfection. This is what is written on his arms, David, solvet et coagula. dissolve, and coagulate. It represents a symbolic change during an alchemical great work. But I wonder what David will say.
Before, but I would have to look at it to be able to see it to tell you probably. But what it symbolizes is the right-hand path and the left-hand path, pointing up to the dark moon and the white and the bright and the left-hand path is what that symbolizes. And I'll read a little bit of the explanation here that Eliphas Levi gives about this monster.
Monster. It seems rather primitive to immediately fear and hate that which you do not understand, or in this case, what you are misrepresenting.
On page 309, he says, moreover, the sign of occultism is made with both hands.
Hold on 1 second, David. Let me fix something. This has been driving me nuts. Let me just go over to here and drag this down, drop it on. Okay, change this here. Okay, bring this to 0, bring this to 0, bring this down to 0. That's kind of about 2%. Yeah, 2%. And, okay, look, see? It's gone. All I had to do was just crop it. See that? It's there. Crop. And it's gone. That's it, John. Very easy.
Pointing up to the white moon of Chesed and downward to the black moon of Geburah. And this might be what's written on there. I can't tell, John. Can you see?
No, David, that is what the upper and the lower moons represent.
But
I can't really tell. It looks like it could be Geburah. It's hard to really tell what it's saying there. It looks almost like cradle or something. I really can't tell. So
okay.
The Sov is easily, the one pointing up, Sov is easily understood. You can see that, but the other one I cannot. I definitely can't make it out.
Just fucking Google it and read the description, for fuck's sake. I will take the very first link and read it. The Latin terms solve and coagula written upon Baphomet's arms. These translate to dissolve and coagulate, which are opposing alchemical processes. There. See? Not so difficult, now was it?
and the black and the white moon, this is symbolized the right hand and the left hand path. He said the sign expresses the perfect concord between mercy and justice. One of the arms is feminine and the other masculine, as in the androgyny of Kun-Rath, whose attributes we have combined with those of our goat. Now, this is all what we're talking about in transhumanism.
Transhuman of what? You mean alchemy, right? That's what this icon represents, the unifying of opposites.
We have the male mixed with the female, mixed with the animal. And we've talked a lot about the chimeras of transhumanism. This is not only androgynous, it's a chimera. It's not just male and female, it's male, female, animal. And all of this is their perfect representation. And of course, the goat, this is representing the satanic scapegoat.
Don't tell me the sheep of your Lord Shepherds doesn't understand animal symbolism and analogy. Seems odd for the fisher of men or the Lamb of God. I guess Jesus is a transhuman too. The alchemical image drawn by Eliphas Levi is not the solitary icon of occult imagery. It is well known in popular culture because of exposure, but it is not an actual deity with a mythology or culture attached.
Okay,
You know,
I found what it says here. It says on one side solve, which means separate, or solve or whatever, and then coagula, which means join together. So solve pointing up, join together pointing down.
okay.
So the joining of the feminine and male.
Right.
So yeah, makes sense. Anyways, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just found it and I
Oh,
wanted
no,
to mention
that
it
is
before I forgot.
Almost, John. Almost. Good effort. Good effort. The axiom of solve it coagula, or dissolve and coagulate, is the process of refinement. Alchemy has the material process of changing materials, but it also has a spiritual component, that of refinement of oneself, an internal great work, if you will.
That is fine. And you can see, just from looking at this, we've got the male and the female represented there. And I'm not going to read a lot of this because, it's graphic enough. You can tell it, but just looking at it.
Or Eliphas Levi is explaining what the icon represents. You are skipping this because it does not support your narrative.
But he goes on in the big crescendo. He says, "Behold the Sphinx of medieval terrors unveiled, and cast from his throne, Quomodo sedesti Lucifer." This is Lucifer.
No, it's not. That is the Latin for the name of the fallen star. I thought you would know your King James Bible. I guess I was wrong. In the King James translation, Isaiah 14 verse 12 reads, "How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations?" Here is where we find the name Lucifer. The term Lucifer was popularized in English from this King James translation. However, the name does not come from the Hebrew or even from the Greek translation of the Septuagint, but from the 4th century AD Latin translation of this verse. And I'm not even going to try and pronounce it. All right, you know what? I'll try and pronounce it. Quomodo sedisi di coelo Lucifer, quimane Ouroboros coribus menterin. Oh my god, I just summoned a dragon. Holy shit, I gotta go.